Greetings, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you again and learning with you. And thanks for everything you do on the way of self-mastery and service. We'll have a meditation first to prepare ourselves for our presentation on the laws of life 5, the laws of duality and unity. I will put up an image to help draw us into our meditative exercise. You'll see now before you Atalanta Fusion's document manuscript by Michael Mayer. We're seeing in particular at the top, you'll see there's emblem 16. Michael Mayer's work, Atalanta Fusion, is a wonderful multimedia work that involves pictures, as you see before you, written text in a poetic form, but also music with words to it. It's getting more intensely studied by scholars recently, appreciating the tremendous value of this work of wisdom and artistry. We'll zoom in more closely on the particular picture at this time, and I'll give you a resource on this if you'd like to hear the musical piece associated with this and see more images to do with Atalanta Fusions. The Latin towards the top here, translated English would be, this line has no wings, the other has. So we see this line here without wings, this line with wings. That's something very important for us to take note of and we'll work with in our meditation period. As we zoom in more closely here, you can see the struggle that's going on and the winged lion looking out towards us, connecting with us. In a way, we're seeing our life here before us and our natures. For existence and all is unified in one essence, or in a unity by essence. But expressions are dual. And dual, we mean that also in the expansive sense that duality can lead to multiplicity. You'll notice here in this struggle a remarkable insight for us. In fact, past imperator Ralph M. Lewis discussed this emblem in the Amorc book, Behold the Sign. And I'll give you a reference to it through the chat and when Karen later pastes some things in there, though I know many of you are very familiar with this image already and that Amorc book. Now the winged lioness is like unto the inner self, the master within. And the lion that is not winged, that is the outer self. And we need to work for our inner self and outer self to work together. We can't allow the outer self to have the fantasy that it's the guide in life and that it's actually the inner self. The inner self is our true guide when it is always there to work with us, to ennoble us, to enrich us, to energize us. And we'll have a period of meditation to do just that. The lion, if it will work with the inner self, the master within it, it will find it's ennobled and enriched and life will be far more meaningful, far more capable in being of service to others and helping make living conditions more harmonious. If we wonder what happens if we let the outer self be our guide in life, we'll find there's much lack of experience of what Rosicrucians call harmonium. We can also look to the news and the headlines. Much of that is the result of the outer self taking charge of the world. When we see beautiful progressive things happening, ennobling, enriching things that are gradually happening with humans' evolvement, is because the inner self is being more and more recognized by us. And as that increasingly happens by larger and larger group of peoples, in a way symbolically like the return of the Christ or the Christ consciousness or the cosmic consciousness on Earth. Now let us take some time to prepare ourselves for meditation. Have a good look at this image. It's a very powerful and memorable one. And our subconscious works with symbols, so it helps with Michael Mayer doing this in a symbolic form, much like we have in our dream states and learn from our dreams. We see the dual expression, as I mentioned earlier, that we must learn to master, to grow up, evolve. The wing lioness wants to ascend just as we will shortly in meditation. The outer self is holding it back. If the outer self will become passive and receptive, it'll find too that it'll be enriched and rise up to a degree with the inner self in combined mastership. This is an important part of the teachings of the order. We have the weekly monographs that we study in our home sanctum to have that very detailed understanding of all levels or senses of existence throughout the unity. We need to understand in detail, in an extensive way, the material plane represented by the lion. In order to learn the lessons of life, regulate our contact with it, and emulate the cosmic through the material world, and thereby attain self-mastery. Now, let us work with the outer self, the lion, to allow the inner self to ascend to the heights of the celestial sanctum now. So I invite you to close your eyes and take some deep neutral breaths, just enjoying the wisdom of the body. For the body, as the Rosicrucian tradition, is our holy temple. This is one of the great lessons for the lion part of our nature to learn. There's the wisdom of the body. The lion has the wisdom if it'll work with the inner self. Just enjoy the gentle rhythms of the breath. Allow the lion to be calm. From this dual expression of the lioness and the lion, back out of is the unity and essence, which we increasingly realize through the central practice of meditation. Let's continue with this simple form of meditation. I invite you to extend your outgoing breath, your exhalation, to stimulate the vagus nerve even more so the relaxation response can occur. And when we're relaxed and calm, that's when healing can most take place. Let us continue to still the lion so we can take flight as the winged lioness. These dual natures are one for us to realize in a uniform and unified form of consciousness. If you find your mind wandering, just lovingly and gently bring it back to the gentle rhythm of the breath. The body likes to relax. The lion likes to relax. I think you'll find increasingly that the vital life force tingling in your body, enriching tonic effect. We always have this capacity of breath before us for the mastery of life and to embrace challenging experiences for their life-giving lessons. The breath is also our key to stay in the present. That's where we truly can do everything. Whether it be planning for the future or analyzing the past to gather its further lessons. To staying in the present, which the meditation allows us to do more and more as a way of life. In this calm breathing, you may wish to take a little more deeper breaths than you usually do at this time. If we make it a life habit, we'll find that we're more relaxed, more calm, can concentrate better, are more energized, are enjoying life more, experiencing better health. We know this through our Rosicrucian teachings and scientific studies, particularly intensively on meditation the past 4 decades and continuing, but also first and foremost through our own experience and direct contact with the master within, where all is known through its infinite resources at one with the cosmic mind. Just continue to enjoy the gentle breaths of focusing the mind in the present. And as we become calmer and calmer with each inhalation, we can feel the increasing presence of the winged lioness, who we truly are, our noble guide in life. Feel her increased presence of a deep familiarity with her and her rightness of knowing this experience. She's been with us all along. It's who we've always been, seeking to express every opportune moment. That's why we're learning all these Rosicrucian laws and principles in our weekly studies. To have the lion and the winged lioness work together, their dual natures, but one in essence, for self-mastery. As we've stilled our outer self, the lion, let us prepare to ascend as the winged lioness to the heights of the celestial sanctum. Make sure that you can breathe in an unencumbered way, your spine upright, you're seated, hands in your laps, palms down, knees at right angles, feet about 8 inches apart. And let us now do a prayer and invocation as part of the Central Rosicrucian meditation text, Liber 777. The following statement, which you may wish to say inwardly with me. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body, that I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and in worthiness. So mote it be. Now use all your inner psychic, imaginative faculties to picture yourself rising up as the winged lioness, up over your room that you're in, a home or dwelling or building that you're in. Now up over your neighborhood. Enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent as the winged lioness. See now the city or geographic area below you, rising up faster and faster, using the great inner resources of the winged lioness and our divine nature. See below you now the county where you dwell, and now expanding out to take in your entire province or state, and see the great system and order below and the weather systems. Radiate love and well-being from the winged lioness down to all sentient creatures below. Through their trials and struggles, their joys and their tears, all learning life lessons, part of their mission in life. Let us continue to rise up again with great inner spiritual strength, enjoying the exhilaration of the ascent to take in our entire country or great nation. Keep rising up, starting to sense more and more the great curvature of the earth and see the continent where you dwell, and now even the hemisphere where you dwell, now even the entire sphere of the earth, the beautiful blue jewel of the earth, revolving about its axis. Sense its harmony and motion of this temple of the earth, mirroring the temple of their body, and to build temples on earth. And look up and see other planets that are part of our solar system, our local home, and the great fiery ball of the sun, and see the great elliptical orbits the traditional Rosicrucian revealed to the world through his calculations of mathematics, through the calculus and algebra, tying in with the system and order of the cosmos. See the beautiful rings of Saturn, the huge planet of Jupiter, and the smaller planets such as Mercury, Mars, and Venus, and feel their psychic vibrations coming to you and radiate back to them the same as we rise up beyond our solar system and take in many, many other stars in addition to our sun, some larger, some smaller, the interstellar gases, the black holes helping balance the cosmos, the supernovae with tremendous bursts of light. Just like the love that will radiate when we reach the heights of celestial sanctum, the rogue planets, the asteroids, the nebulae, all these rich multiplicity variety that we know through the law of duality, but we sense the underlying unity through the law of unity. Keep rising up faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light. We're not limited as we transcend space and time by the speed of light as a limit. We go way beyond it. taking in increasing vibrations, the higher and higher octaves of what the Rosicrucians refer to as the cosmic keyboard, the great ocean of vibrations, sensing them not only through our physical sense, but our inner psychic senses as we sense further and further, higher and higher rates up the cosmic keyboard, higher and higher octaves, which you learn to master as a great pianist, playing this full range of vibrations in self-mastery, and continue to rise up right out of the Milky Way galaxy and look back at our great home with its great spiraling arms, revolving just like the Earth and the moon around the Earth, and the various electrons inside of our bodies and the great motions within us through the blood flow and the electrical magnetic energy of our nervous system. All these things mirroring it as the microcosm corresponds to the macrocosm. Let us continue to rise up higher and higher, faster and faster, taking in many other galaxies, some spiraling in other shapes, and astounded by the great harmony of the order of it all, the harmony of the spheres. You travel faster and faster, seeing not only galaxies, but clusters of galaxies. And not only clusters of galaxies, but superclusters, which is many, many clusters of galaxies inside of it. As we pass further and further out, we see multitudes of stars, seemingly uncountable, yet on the finite plane. Soon we'll shift over to the infinite plane. This tremendous expanse of the finite plane helps us attune, experience the finite plane which it mirrors. So we continue to move higher and higher up the octaves, doubling each time from one octave to the other, the cosmic keyboard. Feel the exhilaration within our nature, the wing-lyingness. Increasingly take in the large-scale structure of the cosmos. Sense the cosmos as a whole, revolving about a great central pillar or cosmic axis, spoken of by the ancients, philosophers, and mystics. As you sense that stupendous action and rotation, sense where the cosmic axis is and home in on its midpoint. As you get closer and closer to it, sensing the stupendous action of the rotations and the harmony and order of it all, the wondrous music that musicians on earth seek to imitate. Come to us slower and slower as you reach the midpoint of the cosmic axis and be at the very center of the cosmos. And by the law of correspondence, we're at the center of our being. When you get there, fill it in with the sights and sound of your personal sacred celestial sanctum. It may be an inspiring built structure on earth, such as a Sikudara, a Hindu mandir, Jewish synagogue, or a Christian church or cathedral, or a Buddhist stupa or meeting hall, or some other sacred built structure, such as the Grand Temple at Rosicrucian Park of this Grand Lodge in San Jose, California. Or maybe it's a wonderful place in nature, just a tremendous view you're seeing of the cosmos all around you. Or maybe it's a beautiful meadow or seashore or lakeshore. See the vibrations of the waves coming in, suggesting attuning with the higher and higher octaves of vibrations. Or maybe it's a high hill or a great vantage point from a mountain, suggesting the expansive view of the cosmic mind within us. Keep filling in the sights and sounds and various psychic impressions and all the senses as applicable to your sacred site, your personal celestial sanctum. You may wish to picture there too other seekers and other Rosicrucians and others on this conference call with you. The Grand Masters of our order and the Imperator conducting a sacred convocation, if you will. Possibly beautiful stained glass with various Rosicrucian laws and principles and mystical teachings symbolized on them. And maybe incense burning to suggest the rising up to the cosmic, just like we did as we rose to this high, sacred, invigorating place. Keep filling in your sacred place, your personal celestial sanctum. Feel the exhilaration to be there at the center of the cosmos, at the center of your being. You may be experiencing the vital life force tingling throughout your body, feeling particularly its positive polarity through the law of duality, the cosmic essence. And once you've filled in your visualization, surrender and let go, applying the law of duality again. Increasingly experience unity through the law of unity. We'll have a time now to be still by applying the law of silence. Feel whatever there is to feel and whatever the winged lion wishes to convey to us. Be receptive. Gradually, as you come into increased contact with the divine within, let your mind expand with great rapidity to fill in the cosmos, to be the cosmic mind, to soon assume the cosmic mind, to experience as the cosmic experiences. And being one with the cosmic mind, continue to apply the law of silence to dwell in peace profound. Feel the enrichment, the ennoblement, the oneness, the rightness, the deep familiarity of it all. We've applied the law of duality to come into this increasing realization through the law of unity, of the oneness of all creation and all back of it. In cosmic attunement, one with the cosmic mind. Just continue to let go, surrender to the experience. As we continue to be the cosmic mind, let us undertake further spiritual operations, the Rosicrucian order Amorcs, work and worship. In the heights of the celestial sanctum, let us work with the silent council in conjunction with the council of solace of all those who have petitioned our Grand Lodge of the Rosicrucian order for guidance and healing, and all those of the Amorc affiliated bodies petitioned for guidance and healing, and all those you know of who are in need of guidance and healing, and all throughout the cosmos who are in need of guidance and healing. Let us radiate love and well-being to them. From deep within, the divine within, one with the cosmic mind, let the love and well-being flow, till it welling up, a great searchlight flooding the cosmos, or like a supernova with tremendous beams of light going forward to all those in need. Radiate love and well-being. Feel the exhilaration of the flow. And once it's well going, just let it happen. There's no need to be any more conscious effort. Just let it flow. Returning to the increased realization of being one with the cosmic mind, assuming the cosmic mind. Letting the love and well-being flow. Assured it's reaching all in need, especially when the flow speeds up. Soon we'll formally conclude this period of the work of the Silent Council, in conjunction with the Council of Solace. But we'll continue our meditation, assured that the radiations of love and well-being will continue deep within. The divine within, our true nature. We're seeking ever more to know more and more fully. To conclude this period of metaphysical aid, we'll now say, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done, so mote it be. Let us continue to remain in cosmic attunement at the heights of the celestial sanctum, at one with the one, assuming the cosmic mind. Now we'll soon conclude our formal period of meditation. You may wish to invoke the law of gratitude to all those who have loved us well, to all those who have taught us well, to all those who have sacrificed for us. To all those who have shown us how to do likewise for others in our lives. Now we begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum, fratres and sorors and participants. As the winged lioness, let us return at great rapidity past the superclusters of galaxies and all the stellar phenomena, quasars and pulsars, supernovae, black holes balancing the cosmos. Enjoy the exhilaration of the descent, enriched and ennobled by the harmony of the spheres, the wondrous divine music back of it. See in the distance our supercluster that we live in, and plunge within it and see all the clusters. Plunge into the cluster that is ours. Way in the distance, see the Milky Way galaxy. It's wondrous motion. Plunge back into our home, the Milky Way galaxy, particularly the great arm of it where we dwell. Past the myriad stars, comets, and planets, and asteroids. See in the distance our home, the solar system. And approach the fiery ball of the sun and the beautiful blue jewel of the earth. Come back to the hemisphere where we left off, and the continent, and the great country or nation, and the province or state, and then the city. And let us say together, may the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self with the celestial sanctum. So mote it be. Let us continue down into our neighborhood, a home or a dwelling or building where we left off, the room. When you're ready, you may wish to stretch, open your eyes, all the more ready for the work and worship of the Rosicrucians this day and forevermore. Thank you. Our attunements with the celestial sanctum allow us to have a more rich contact with the outer self and the winged lioness, and realize the underlying unity in their dual expression. When we come back from the celestial sanctum, we understand things more and more in a unified, non-dual way. Now to continue our presentation, brothers and sorors and participants, I will say that the Rosicrucian laws of duality and unity need to be applied as a pair in an ongoing alternating succession for our evolvement on the mystical path and in life. And these two laws have a special relationship with the law of the triangle and how manifestations and realizations occur in our lives. To elucidate this further, let us look at a painting by Edward Mitchell Bannister. It's entitled Moonlight Marine. It dates from 1885 and it's oil on canvas. Let us zoom in on it, leaving behind for a while the outer frame only. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's in the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts in Richmond. This oil on canvas work is about 30 inches by 40.7 inches. The African-American Edward Mitchell Bannister, who painted it, was an avid sailor exploring along the northeast coast of the United States, seeing many seascapes. He was also very inclined to spiritual philosophy, which I think you can sense as we attune with this work, including the New England Transcendentalism, promulgated by such inspired figures as Ralph Waldo Emerson and others. But Bannister was an inspired figure in his own right, very, very learned and deeply spiritually experienced. I show you this work because in a way it's a wonderful exemplification of our topic today, the law of duality and the law of unity, where we see in a way a very strong sense of both light and darkness, of both luminosity and shadow. And he works with them both to give it apply the law of suggestion to give it a three-dimensionality. As we look at the work, we see the light from the moon building, intensifying, just like when we were at the heights of the celestial sanctum and the divine within increasingly came forward to us. Just in our own lives, as we're increasingly receptive to the divine within, it'll move stronger and stronger to us, to our great surprise and yet deep familiarity. We see the horizon in the distance, the touches of light to give the dimensionality of the work. We see a ship in the distance by the horizon, just like we're journeying in life. The great actions and vibrations of the waves. You see, in our own lives is much like this work by Bannister. We have periods that can seem to the outer self dark and can seem very bright. But the inner nature is not fazed by them, the inner lioness. It embraces them and conveys to us the enriching experiences of it. I know many of you have expertise or great knowledge of various subject matters. You know, when you learned about it and over time, you applied the law of unity and duality, because as you learn new laws and principles of that subject, whether it was some area in physics or engineering or in mathematics or statistics or English literature or in history or some skilled in the trade to do with masonry or carpentry or in the culinary arts, whatever it is, you have to plunge into the apply the law of duality. But then when you come back and see the fruits of your effort, you can experience your trade or your discipline more as an underlying unity, and you see the interconnections. The same with our life, and the same is suggested by this wondrous painting by the inspired figure Bannister. Let us continue, though, to experience more analogies through inspiring works of art. Again, we look at a work of art, but our talk today does, yes, have an art historical aspect, but it's more fundamentally about you and your mastership of life. Here we see a much beloved work, particularly during the past century, by the Dutch artist Johan Vermeer, who passed through transition or experienced his great initiation, as Rosicrucian say, in 1675, active in Holland in the 17th century. It's known as Girl with a Pearl Earring, dates from 1665. It's oil on canvas. It's approximately 17.5 inches by 15.3 inches. And it's from the Mauritshuis gallery in The Hague. I know many of you may be planning to go to the wondrous Vermeer exhibit that's on now in Europe, or may have seen back around 1995, one of the great Vermeer exhibits that was in the United States, where people lined up overnight to be able to get tickets. And one of the main curators of that exhibit to do with Vermeer, including this artwork, mentioned that he got surprised to get so many letters. He'd never seen so many letters from an exhibit. And one of the underlying themes was that Vermeer's work conveyed to people a deep sense of calmness. So they lined up overnight to experience that, just as we ascend to the heights of the celestial sanctum to experience it. It is always available to us, whether we're in line or not. Now, it's intriguing by this work when you look at it. He's used, like Bannister, light and darkness, luminosity and shadow, to make this girl appear alive to us. You almost get a sense of her soul or her soul personality. Rembrandt was known as being able to portray souls through the windows of the eyes. Well, Vermeer has that capacity as well. You know, those touches of light here and there and shining on the earring here gives that extra three-dimensionality and lifelikeness. And the dark background makes her light face stand out even more. She is a youthful figure, but it also suggests eternity. When a figure suggests great beauty and youthfulness, it suggests the fountain of youth, the eternity to us, we experience through the divine within. Take a good look at it and take it in as a whole now. Just feel that unified experience of it, and it's quite wondrous. No one part, but just the overall impression that you get from the work. And how the lightness and the darkness, the law of duality, evokes the law of unity to experience the whole, just like in our own lives. We have a sense of it as a whole, as well as the details and various facets. We attune more and more with the master within. We take more and more of that expansive embrace of our whole life and the whole of creation to our great surprise. And we know the way forward then and how to act. But it's sort of a spiritual and psychic experience now. I'm going to tell you more about this work of art. And we could have the whole rest of our presentation, the whole rest of the day on it, and get deeper and deeper insights into it. And I know many of you are well versed in it already. But consider here, how is this work made? It looks so three-dimensional, even if we're seeing it as through this digital format, and we're not even seeing the original. Well, there was a binding medium used called linseed oil. I know many of you are used to that. If you mix lots of linseed oil into your paint, you can make your paintings even more selfless in a way, even remove even the brush strokes. And they would heat them. By scientific analysis, we know this. Vermeer was working, as well as some historic records. Also, intriguingly, there was copper put in that helped the paint to dry faster, but the heated linseed oil helped with that mixing into the copper. Also, with the linseed oil and the copper, pigments were mixed in. That's ground powders. Now, many of these things are bought, but in earlier times, an artist would be using a mortar and pestle, like an alchemy, to make these, or having assistants make them, just like Leonardo did before Vermeer. And what were the pigments? Well, in the headgear, in the headdress here, that actually is not of Dutch tradition, it's more of an Eastern tradition, is ultramarine, which is lapis lazuli, which is a very precious material that comes all the way from Afghanistan. And for the other colors, there's indigo, which came from Asia or the Americas. So you see, we're in some ways taking a world tour here to be able to create this painting. Also, there was lead to give the white. For example, what's been called the pearl earring. You see the touch of white there, but also the white inner collar. That actually comes from a very specific location on the Temple of the Earth, from the beautiful Peak District of England, which I know many of you explored and is renowned for the expression of the Romantic poets. Also, we move over to the left here, there's the Mexican red that's on her lips. But it comes from an insect, the cochineal insect from Mexico, South America. And then also there's a yellow ochre of her coat, the ochre coming from the earth that's rich in iron, possibly in Europe. So we see we've taken this world tour. In a way, this work is a microcosm of the macrocosm. Because Vermeer is living in one of the great seagoing nations of the world, the Dutch, he's getting all these materials are coming into the ports from around the world and through trade. So we see that we've, through scientific analysis and modern technology and various scanning of various higher rates of vibration, the cosmic keyboard are being applied. Those octaves can take in and analyze various small segments of the painting, various small samples, and they can even scan to see where he's reworked the painting, what he originally looked like underneath. But now that we've got a sense of where all these pigments are coming from around the world, let's look at the painting again. And I think you'll find that you now have a new sense, you've gone into duality to study it with all these different parts of the world it's associated with, to compare and contrast. But let's look at it now as a unity, and realizing that it's encompassing the world, and see if we do not sense it all the more deeply as a greater unity and masterpiece of genius. Now let us continue in our exploration of the law of unity and duality. Here you'll notice in the slide before you, one with a dot there. That is, say, the first part of the duality, the A element or the B element, or the positive and negative in the various manifestations throughout creation and within your own being. But let us keep going. We have two, so we're forming the dual nature here. But we know that associated, as we mentioned, a very important law with the law of duality and unity is the law of the triangle, or the law of perfection, or the law of manifestation. When we perfectly ballot two polarities, symbolized by the 1 and the 2 in this line segment, a new manifestation can occur in law of perfection, perfect manifestation. In our lives, when something important is not happening in our life, somehow we have not lined up the two necessarily polarities, the 1 and the 2. Maybe both are not well in place, or maybe one is. Sometimes one is and well in place, and we get the other, and suddenly, very quickly, the manifestation comes forward, too often to our surprise. That's where we have the third point, the manifestation. In a way, the three is a unity because it now combines elements of both the first two polarities. We applied this when we followed the instructions of the booklet Liber 777 to ascend to the heights of the celestial tank and return enriched and ennobled. But when one's looking for a job, one has to have the various qualities of one, of the skills that are needed, but also two, the capacity to look and get engaged and active. Similar when we visualize, one, we picture a visualization like we did at the heights of the celestial sanctum, of our personal celestial sanctum. But then we had to release it and let go and concentrate on its fulfillment, just like we do in visualization for some important material or immaterial thing in our lives. We see here then yet the profundity of the concept of the law of the triangle and how pervasive it is in our lives. The perfection of the triangle is inspiring in itself and helps invoke through the sacred nature of geometry our inner self. I've chosen a particular color that you may see as a particular sort of blue-purple, that if one has an aura of that color, suggests a very spiritually inclined being. But related to this law of the triangle and the law of duality and the law of unity is something we're very familiar with as Rosicrucians, that is the rose cross, because in the horizontal and vertical bars, they have the two polarities coming together. And at the center, filling the third point, is the rose, our unfolding maturity through the cross of life, our trials and tribulations and experiences. But the rose forms a unity as well as the whole image of the rosy cross, for that unified non-dual consciousness that we curiously come into realization of by applying these various laws and realizing the dual expression things. I want to show you now some other ways the law of duality and unity is permeated throughout our lives. But let us keep in mind the intimate relationship between the law of the triangle and the rose cross, our beloved symbol that enriches and ennobles us. And as we grow and mature, we're able to increasingly experience the full meaning of it as the roses of the petal unfold on the cross that we are. I know many of you have been intrigued too by another profound symbol associated with Aura Order, and you've even walked on it. Particularly, I'm thinking of now the labyrinth that's at Rosicrucian Park. Here we see an above view of it. Labyrinths such as this and some other labyrinths such as the labyrinth at Chartres Cathedral that I know many of you are familiar with and have walked. Sometimes we have a surprising experience on some labyrinths that's associated with the law of unity and the law of duality. Because when we walk this labyrinth here at Rosicrucian Park, or you can view it visually in your mind, we start in where this vertical arrow is, and we begin our journey just like we do in our own lives. And as we come, we move around into the twists and turns, and we get closer and closer to the center. And then we feel a degree of exhilaration that our journey is complete and that things are not going to be so hard any longer. But then we have the surprise that as we go around from the center, we actually move away from it. In fact, it's like the quest of the Holy Grail, the manuscript of the medieval period from circa 1225 CE or AD. That text itself was written in a labyrinth pattern, which says that you were once closer to it than you are today, yet are closer now than you were before if you hold fast to what you have embarked on. So we have to experience when we have the challenges in our life that we're not that we're continuing to evolve. We're not going backwards. We're always going forward, no matter what's happening. And we're never given more than we can handle, especially when we work with the divine within, the winged lion, and the full resources of the lion in cooperation. We find as we move farther and farther out, we may be taken aback and think that life is unfair, but these are the finite grasp of the outer self in its illusions. We stay steadfast as the quest of the Holy Grail advised us, and the divine within says, lo and behold, we start to move back in again. We get closer and closer, and we reach the golden arrow there. And I know many of you have seen, there's the open petal of the rose there with us, symbolic of our great rose cross. Continuing in this manner, before we finish up, I'll say a few more things. We've talked in earlier Rosicrucian TV Department of Instruction teleconferences where there's recordings. I'll give you, through Karen, the resource for that shortly. We've talked about the 5 phases of mystical unfoldment, from the awakening to the purgation and self-discipline to illumination. This would say illumination to the dark night of the soul, or the obscure night to union or mystical union. It's an undulating pattern. The law of vibration is at work throughout our lives and all scales of creation. We'll find with the awakening stage that we have a new idealism and an upliftment, an increased experience of unity that's very inspiring. But with that, we soon find that we're plunged, you might say, or moving into a period of purgation and self-discipline where we now have to manifest that idealism in our lives, both in our environment and within ourselves, things that we need to resolve from our past, new laws in the subconscious that are come forward. But then that puts us more and more in the experience of duality and multiplicity that we're plunged into. But then we come back to unity, and there's an even greater experience of unity than awakening, and that unified consciousness. We're beyond the dual awareness of things. You know, the Pythagorean tradition is important in this, and a number is back of all things. And we see in our modern area increased use of number. For example, computers work with binary codes of 0 and 1s, yes, but they encapsulate all that unified knowledge as a unity, just like we do. Through duality, we come into that unified understanding. And from that greater experience of idealism and unity, we find even more cleaning up and purging of ourselves through the dark night of the soul, increased experience of black and white, duality, even a degree of separateness. But if we keep with our memory, return back to the winged lioness, we'll have the strength and well-being and re-energized to move through the dark night of the soul and embrace its ennobling lessons, because its challenges are large extent because of the great brightness of the illumination. It's not as challenging as it seems. And then we come into the mystical union phase. Again, you see great expression of the law of unity, the law of duality, but dual in expression, but one in underlying essence. Another way to think about this traditionally, and this is through the traditional Martinist tradition, but it's also in the closely allied with the Rosicrucians, but also in the Rosicrucian tradition, the idea of the third pillar or the middle column or the middle way. In life, in a way, we walk through a middle path between two extremes, going off to extreme in one side or another, but trying to find that happy medium through all things. Some of the traditional pillars are, for example, can be known as poverty and wealth, but also could be barrenness and fecundity, or various other polarities. We take from both, we recognize them by the law of duality, but the law of unity, we stay in the middle path and experience that unified consciousness, that cosmic consciousness through passing that middle path. Thereby, we are able to be all the more enriched and ennobled and of service to others. So this is an inspiring image to keep in mind what we're doing throughout our lives in these various ways of looking at it. They help close out impressions in the outer mind and draw on symbols from the subconscious. Another inspiring way to consider the law of unity and duality is that associated with the pattern of the City of the Sun by the traditional Rosicrucian Tommaso Campanella. You recall our earlier presentation on the City of the Sun, where there's a recording from Rosicrucian TV now. That there was that the center of the sun there. You know, as we come, you can think of this diagram in various ways, but you could think of that diagram, the red there is ourself. And as we learn and study, we go more into the dark region here, the duality. But then as we reflect and take in the comprehension of the inner self, we have a greater sense of unity, pictured by this first concentric circle. But then that spurs us on to even greater realization and idealism to learn more, to understand more, takes us into the duality of the black concentric ring out here, then leads us to an even greater realization of unity. And we can keep going and going and going, expanding to fuller and fuller expression of self-mastery. So you see the law of unity and duality is structured in many ways in our lives. And it's something that's very inspiring to work with. It's something that if we embrace those experiences of duality, we have to know that it'll bring us to greater and greater experience of unity. And that way we won't stay stuck on any one degree of unity, but we'll move on to the greater and more expansive experiences of it. At this time, I'll soon conclude, but I'll ask Karen at this time to please post resources for the presentation in the chat. So I'll say by conclusion that if the outer self will work with the inner self, the matters we've discussed will be seen aright and embraced for their life-giving and maturing lessons to increasingly expansive realizations, harmonium and unity as symbolized before us. Now, we've applied various Rosicrucian laws and principles in understanding this presentation and various diagrams in our ascent to the heights of celestial sanctum for increasing self-mastery and their application in service. Thank you.